You're listening to Let's Stay Together Anime Break, the sub-series of Let's Stay Together where we get punched in the feels by Natsuki Takaya. And we also talk about anime.
I think that's the main series, too.
That's true, but that's very true. This time in particular, I felt like it was a big punch in the feels. All right, I'm Ellen.
And I'm Kayla.
If you didn't know us by now. Before we start recording today, I have some announcements. The first one is really exciting, which is that we have over 200 followers on Tumblr now. I know, it's amazing. It's like we keep talking, people keep listening. I think I made that joke before, but it's fine. Yeah.
It was at 199 for a little while, and I was like, one more person, come on.
It was at 199, and then I looked at it again, and it was at 201, and I was like, what? Tumblr, were you lying to me all this time? Anyway, it's fine. I think there's like 210 or something now. Like, it just, lately something must have happened because we were just talking about it. It seemed like every day there's like more and more people. So anyway, I don't know if you're telling your friends about this podcast or whatever, thanks. It's really nice. It just seems like it's getting some more attention right now. So
as of this second, we have 211.
Whoa. That's right. I just told you about that the username of the person who just followed us. So yeah, it's pretty good. My favorite part, I can't remember if I said this before. I definitely know that I said it to you, but I don't think I said it on the podcast, which is that my favorite part about people following us is that I get to see everybody's usernames and they're all so funny. It's pretty great. So anyway, yes, 211. It's cool. It's really exciting. So the other exciting announcement that I have is that I'm gonna change all the anime break titles because to the actual number of the episode because it was getting really annoying for me to keep track while I was planning. It's not as exciting of an announcement, which is wanted everybody to know. So by the time this comes out, they'll all be changed. So you're listening to Anime Break for the episode 14 of Fruits Basket 2019. It was 2 behind and it was annoying. I'm sorry. It's fine. I just want to
change that first episode to be like episode 1 and 2, and
it's like 1 to 3. I think it'll say. I've already considered it. Listen. I think I answered everybody's asks as of right now. There was like a bunch of asks in the Tumblr inbox, and I like sometimes it just takes me a little while because I try to answer them in a way that I block all of the spoilers that people write in about, which is fine. Like, we read spoilers, but for everybody else, I'm trying to, there's some like, I feel like there's been a lot of people, I don't know if it's like complaining, but just bringing up that for a lot of people it's their first time watching this series or reading this series, which is true. So we try to keep it spoiler free on the Tumblr. And then I tried to make sure I feel like I might have written some spoilery things in like the summaries of the things that I wrote sometimes, so I'm trying to be more careful about it. Anyway, just trying to be safe for everybody. It's a spoiler-free environment. So yeah. So anyway, if you've sent me an ask, sorry. Sometimes it takes me a little while to read them, but it's really exciting when I get to read them. And sometimes people write really interesting comments. Sometimes things that I still like. I don't know. People see everything that people read and watch. I feel like they see in such different ways, but in particular, I feel like sometimes we get some really interesting comments about this series, so it's really nice.
Yeah.
I like it.
Me too.
Good. I'm glad. It's like we chose to do this podcast for a reason or something. Okay. That's all the business that I had to take care of. So, without further ado, we'll be discussing episode 14, which was called It's a Secret. And we're going to do our spoiler-free summary and discussion, and then spoilery discussion after the music for people who want to be spoilt. Spoiled. You heard what I said. Every time I use a word, it's on purpose.
I'm not sure that's true.
I'm not the one who was talking about Ihame's nads, okay?
You're the one who was writing about them, though.
That's true. All right. Anyway, so this episode, it covers chapters 23 and 24 of the manga, and again, like, very few things have changed. There are some minor additions, I think. I don't think anything was really removed. If you want all the details from when we discussed the manga, you can listen to our episode 12, which is called Someday I'll Be Strong Enough That Those Memories Can't Defeat Me, which is Also, just as sad as this one is about to be. I mean, did you cry this time, by the way?
I was eating popcorn and I got a little choked up, and it's kind of hard to swallow something dry like popcorn when you're choked up. So
This time I cried a little, just a little bit. I was like, oh, I can't remember which part it was. But also I cried a little when I was watching the end of Stranger Things too. So, it's just been that kind of week for me, I guess. Anyway, okay, so for this episode of Fruits Basket, we open on a city scene with Momiji narrating. His voice is overlaid, and he says, I don't think that there are any memories that are okay to forget. Not one. We cut into the office building where Tohru works, and where she met him that one night. We see Momiji watching from around the corner, watching a blonde-haired woman interacting with a girl, and he smiles. We cut to Shigure's house, and Tohru asks if it's okay that she go out on May 1st. And Shigure is like, what's up, you going out with your friends? All cheerful like, and Tohru was like, yep, it's the anniversary of my mother's passing, so we're going to visit her grave. And of course we see Shigure, Yuki, and Kyo's serious, sort of concerned reactions to this. Not expecting her to say that, probably. Shigure apologizes for not being able to go, and then Yuki asks if he can join as well to pay his respects to Tohru's mother, and Tohru smiles and thanks him and says, my mom will be very happy. And Shigure says that Kyo should go too, and Kyo doesn't say anything. He just looks kind of upset. And then we cut to a new opening theme song. There was much talk about this opening theme song, and I didn't watch this until Sunday, so like 2 days after this came out, and I was excited for it the whole time. But anyway, it's fine. Anyway, it's cute. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about both of them. At school, Tohru talks to Hana and Uo, and she has just told them that Yuki is coming to the grave, but Kyo hasn't given an answer yet. They're walking down the stairs together, and they reminisce about Kyoko, Tohru's mother. Kyoko would have loved to tease Kyo, Uo says. And we see like a imagination of Kyoko playing with Kyo's hair, calling him like orangey or whatever, carrots, and says that she's just going to eat him up. And just when he would be ready to blow up with frustration, she'd pull him into a bear hug strong enough to crack his ribs, Hana adds. And in the imaginary scene of Kyoko, she hugs Kyo, and there's a poof, and then Tohru thinks that would be terrible in more ways than one, of course.
I love Tohru imagining the poof.
Yeah. That was an addition, and it was great. So, it really has been a year since your mother passed away, Hana says, and the three stop on the stairs. But it feels like she could still pop out of nowhere, grinning and saying, whoops, I'm sorry about that. Tohru smiles a melancholy smile, and Uo apologizes for being a downer. That's just how great Kyoko was, Uo says. We see Kyoko in the past, her long hair flowing, on a motorcycle, in a jacket emblazoned with a red butterfly. The legend of the Crimson Butterfly of Route 7 will never be forgotten, Uo says, and the Tohru chuckles. Out of nowhere, Momiji appears and asks that Tohru hide him. He's playing cops and robbers with some of the kids, and it turns out that he's the robber. Another kid appears and yells, it's no use hiding, and then chases after Momiji. Momiji runs off and yells back, you've work today, right? I'll see you then. Quite concerned, looking after him, Tohru tells him to watch where he's running. Uo wonders which of Momiji's parents is German. Now that I think about it, I rarely hear about any of the Somas speak about their parents, Tohru thinks. And then she remembers Yuki at the onsen saying that he never laughed like that, even in front of his parents. Momiji runs by again, and Tohru slowly wanders after, telling him to be careful again and worrying over him as the kids run back and forth, like as Momiji gets chased by the kid back and forth. Uo and Hana have stayed on the stairs, and Hana says, Tohru-kun has worked so hard, don't you think? For her to become as cheerful as she is now, she must have had to berate herself constantly for the moments of discouragement. If Tohru-kun were to die, I'm not sure that I could smile that way a year out. I might wish that I could forget we even met. And then we see a black and white curtain that we know to be a symbol associated with funerals from my education moment earlier. It ruffles. We see Tohru behind the curtain, her head in her hands. Tohru-kun has worked so hard. Later that night, at the office building, Momiji helps Tohru with the trash, and Tohru asks which of his parents is German. Mutti, he says, which means his mom. Momiji whips out a photo to show Tohru, of course, who freaks out at how pretty she is and thinks about how Momiji really resembles her. Momiji explains that his father is a Soma and that his parents met in college and got married. I'm not sure how he managed to attract such a pretty person, Momiji says, which is a sick burn. I was like, whoa, harsh. Anyway, it's funny. He explains that he has a little sister named Momo, too, who isn't possessed by a zodiac spirit, and she's in 2nd grade, and she's so spoiled, and she follows her mother around like a baby chick, and she's not good at speaking Japanese, and she's super cute. And then he smiles, a huge smile, and Tohru smiles, too. And then Momiji goes on to explain that they usually come and pick up his father from work. So you can go home together, Tohru says. Yeah, it'd be wonderful if I could, but Mama doesn't know about me. Momiji says. And then we make our hard left turn into the sadness part of this episode. Tohru's like, huh? And Momiji walks away. Momiji-chan, we hear, isn't that you, Momiji-chan? So Momiji's mother and sister have shown up in the hallway behind Tohru. What are you doing in a place like this so late, she asks, and Tohru turns, aghast, still holding the photo that Momiji gave her, and Momiji chuckles and explains that his friend works here part-time, and he just came to hang out, and Momo runs over and grabs their mother from behind, because Momiji's mom walked to her. Momiji's mother scolds him, and is like, this isn't a playground, you know, and Momiji apologizes. Won't your mother be worried if you get back so late, she asks. Momiji says he's going home now. That's good, she says, don't take any detours. And then Momiji's mother and Momo leave to go get his father. Momiji's mother thanks Tohru for her work as she passes. And as they walk away, Momo looks back at Momiji, and Tohru watches after them, still a bit taken aback. Ngluk, Momiji says. See, I learned how to pronounce it this time because I could hear her say it. Today's not my day. She saw me, he says, running his hand over the vending machine and then spinning dramatically. I'll have to apologize to Papa later. Momiji-kun, Tohru says, as he crosses his arms behind his back and looks down. Yep, Mama doesn't know about me. She forgot. Her memories were erased. Mama thinks I'm a kid from another Soma family, he explains. And he goes on to say that children that are possessed by the zodiac spirits are born 2 months early. You find someone you love, get married, and have a child together, but then your child becomes a strange baby animal when you embrace it. I wonder how devastating that must be for a mother, he says. And he looks out the window away from Tohru and continues to explain that mothers of zodiac children usually become overprotective or reject their children completely. Mama rejected me, he says. We cut to Momiji's mother, laying curled up in a darkened room, and we can see rain pouring outside. Like, you can see, like, there's a texture in the light on the floor. Momiji's narration continues. Her whole body rejected me. She tried not to look at me, but even so, she was always on edge and hysterical. Thinking about it now, I realize she was emotionally broken like Hana. And then we pan over Momiji's mother. She's wearing a nightgown, and her arms are covered in bandages. And just above her head on the floor lies a pair of scissors. Momiji's mother looks up at the scissors. She picks them up and sits up, and then she raises the scissors over her head and then plunges them into her body. And then we cut to black. And I gasped out loud when I saw it. I was like, what? Anyway. Okay. From black, we fade into a darkened hospital, and you can see there's a light in the background that says surgery. It's like surgery in progress. A young-looking Momiji stands. He looks really young, like maybe 3 or 4, like looks like a little kid. His father hugs him tight, kneeling, and says, Momiji, Mama might not make it, but they say she might get better if she forgets about you. It'll probably be extremely painful for you, but I'll love you that much more to make up for it. If you love Mama like I do, can we do this to save her? And baby Momiji closes his eyes and we fade to black again. Then we cut to baby Momiji again looking around a corner, in a wee sailor suit, looking as adorable as he does today, frankly. Hattori and Momiji's mother sit together. Hattori asks, are you really sure you want to forget? That you won't regret it? We zoom in on Momiji's mother's face, sort of crazed looking, eyes wide. Momiji's mother says, her voice breaking, my biggest regret in life was giving birth to that creature. And then we cut it on baby Momiji's sad and shocked face and fade to black again. In the present, Momiji continues, and so I was erased from Mama's memories. And they're still looking out the window. Momiji sees his parents and sister walking together. Mama got better quickly. She was able to smile again after 2 months. And then we see Tohru join him at the window and she's crying. I wonder if I was able to save Mama, Momiji says, sliding down to sit on the floor. He's watching over her all this time, Tohru thinks. Secretly and from afar so that he wouldn't be seen. I bet that time when I first met him he had come to see his mother, and she remembers that time, which was also the same time that was shown at the beginning of the episode, where he's like wearing red and he was wearing his sunglasses when Tohru saw him. Tohru sobs. But I've decided, Momiji says, I've decided to live my life bearing all my memories. Even if they're sad memories, memories that only hurt me, memories that I sometimes wish I could forget. Tohru looks at him, and then we cut to her memory. Tohru runs down a hallway, then slides open a door to a darkened room. She hesitates at the door and then drops her bag. Momiji's narration continues, if I can bear and face those memories, and work hard to accept them, and we cut back to Tohru's memory. Inside the room, she kneels beside the bed. We zoom in close to her and see that it's her mother, face covered in the bed. Tohru sobs into the sheets. One day, Momiji's narration continues, I believe I can become someone who isn't defeated by those memories. I want to believe I can. I want to believe that there isn't a single memory that's okay to forget. In the present, Tohru looks down at the photo of Momiji's mother and tears fall. The truth is that I didn't want Mama to forget about me. I wanted her to try her best for me, but that's my own selfish wish, Momiji says. So, that's a secret. Tohru cries and hugs him, and the poof cloud appears and reveals her holding a bunny Momiji. Yes, me too, she says as she cries. I believe that too. I want to embrace all of my memories and keep believing that, Tohru thinks, as we pan out. At Shigeru's house, Kyo finds Yuki in the hallway. Hey, Kyo says, I'll be going to visit the grave. And we see Yuki's reaction. He's completely unfazed, of course. Toru's narration is overlaid, so that I won't be defeated. And then we see Momiji and Tohru in the same position on the floor, smiling now. Kind of looking a little relieved, I guess, at their bonding.
Catharsis.
Yes, this is the definition of catharsis. So that I won't be defeated, so that someday I'll go even further and consider those memories precious, Tohru thinks. So we fade out and in again to a temple, and you can see like up on the hill in the background, the graveyard. Yuki, Tohru, and Kyo walk together. Yuki comments on how nice the weather is, and Tohru said that it might be because her mom is so happy that everyone is coming to visit her. Tohru looks at Kyo, who looks grumpy, and then her eyes are wide with concern, but Uo calls to her and distracts her. And we pan up to Uo and Hana. Hana is wearing a long, like, frilly-looking black dress, and Uo wears a long, dark coat. And of course, Kyo stops and yells at them, why the heck are you dressed like that? What's wrong with it, Uo says. I thought it might be too plain, Hana says, and Kyo is like, that's not what I meant! Uotani-san, Yuki asks, is that a biker gang jacket? Oh, it sounds like someone knows his stuff, Uo says. It turns out the jacket was Kyoko's before she gave it to Uo. The esteemed coat of the Crimson Butterfly. Tohru explains that Crimson Butterfly was her mom's nickname for when she was in a gang.
I love Tohru casually and cheerfully using like gang lingo too.
It's like, yeah, when she was like active or
when
whatever.
Active or whatever.
And Yuki and Kyo were like active.
They're like active in what?
Yeah, it's really funny. But I like how Yuki's like, is that a gang jacket, Uotani-san? And like the cutest, like, oh, so proper. And Uo's like, oh, somebody knows a thing, which is great. When they get to the grave, it seems like it's already been cleaned by Toru's grandfather, who also left Kyoko's favorite food, which is some kind of mochi. I forget what it's called. It's wrapped in an oak leaf. We talked about this. Kyo asks if her grandfather is related to her mother or her dad, and Tohru says that it's her dad's dad. Uo also adds that Kyoko was estranged from her parents. And Yuki asks what happened to Toru's father as well, and she explains that he got a cold and developed fatal complications, all while smiling still. And she was very young and doesn't really remember it well. Yuki remembers, of course, when he had a cold a few episodes ago and thinks, well, that's why she was so worried back then. So finally it was revealed. If you wondered why Tohru freaked out when he had a cold and you hadn't read the series or seen it before, that's why. Tohru, Hana, and Uo start setting up things at the grave, like they go to clean it and set up flowers or whatever. And Yuki stands back and thinks, her father died and her mother, how can she still smile and be cheerful instead of radiating despair? Yuki remembers the day of the accident because, of course, he was in her class. The kids are all in class. Their homeroom teacher slides open the door and asks for Tohru, and they speak quickly in the hall. Tohru looks surprised, and they both run off. And Uo and Hana, of course, jump up and run out after her. Yuki thinks, at that time I remember vaguely thinking that maybe one of her relatives was in an accident. I was only vaguely aware of the person called Tohru Honda, but now we live in the same house, and she's always close by. And Tohru calls to Yuki to look at the flowers that they brought, which are pretty, she says, and he smiles. And we see Kyo walking off behind him in the background. While Tohru, Yuki, and Kyo struggle to arrange the flowers at the grave, Hana walks over to Kyo. Hanajima, Kyo says, can you see ghosts and stuff? Of course I can't, she says. I have no spiritual power. And then Kyo is like, but you're Denpa. And she cuts him off and is like, Denpa and spiritual powers are completely different. Don't get them confused. Denpa are like thoughts. They present like words that come directly into the brain rather than the ears. And Kyo is like, I don't need the explanation, but you know, he kind of asked for it.
The dub, he's like, I already regret asking.
Yeah, did he say that? That's great.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Hana wants to know why he's asking so suddenly. No reason, he says. Of course. Hana explains that living people's waves are the strongest, and the waves of the dead are probably very weak, so they are drowned out by the stronger thoughts of living humans around them, which is interesting. Right now, Hana says, your waves are screaming. Why do you feel such regret in this graveyard? And Kyo looks at her, scared. The wind blows, and he turns to face her. It's chaos, she says. But any further interaction between them is interrupted by Tohru. Tohru asks if something is wrong, and Kyo denies it. Also, of course. So Is that so? Then please come over here, she says, and she grabs Kyo's arm and drags him over to where they've laid out a picnic in front of the grave. And Kyo is like, what? Don't picnic in a cemetery. And Uo was like, whatever. Kyoko would be happier if we were rowdy. And Kyo is like, well, what happens if the priest sees us? And Uo is like, we'll just apologize. They're like, chill. She's like, just sit down. And he's like, fine. And then Tohru gives him some food, and he kind of like pokes at it, but doesn't eat it. Yuki asks if Uo and Hana were close to Toru's mother, and Uo says that Kyoko was good to them. She was a legend, so Uo looked up to her but even before they met as well. And then Uo continues to explain things, and Tohru looks over at the grave and smiles, and you can see Kyo and Hana in the background looking over as well. Later in the evening, around dusk, Tohru, Yuki, and Kyo take off toward home, and Uo waves them off. You know what, she says, lately those three seem better and better together. The prince is more willing to speak his mind, and Kyo seems to care about Tohru, whatever he says. Maybe someday he'll confess his love for her. Oh my, Saki says. That wouldn't do. I wouldn't allow for a relationship with Tohru-kun so easily. And Uo was like, what are you, the mother-in-law? Or if you're watching the dub, didn't she say, like, what are you, the dad? Or something?
Yeah,
it was a little
like
overprotective
dad or something.
Yeah. I was half joking, Hana says. So you were half serious, Uo says. Hana starts walking off, and she says that Yuki and Kyo continue to exude confusion and chaos. And the reason isn't clear, but their minds are ruled by dark, troubled thoughts. All people have those thoughts, but those two are especially plagued by them. As long as they're like this, they probably don't have the capacity for a romantic relationship. And, she adds, I want to add that those two seem especially dense in that area. Well, Tohru is too, Uo says. But then sometimes feelings bloom before you know it. Hana is like, that wouldn't do. Just thinking about Tohru-kun getting married brings tears to my eyes. And Uo is like, it's too early to be thinking about that. Back at Shigure's house, Tohru has made herself some tea and is enjoying it on the porch. She thinks that the grave visit was fun, and she's glad that she could introduce Kyo and Yuki to her mother. Mom, she thinks, those two are always helping me out. I hope you can meet Shigure's son someday as well. And then she remembers earlier at the grave, and you can see behind her, the gang are all praying, I guess. Like, their hands are clasped. Listen, I don't know that much about Buddhism. However, they all seem to be, like, praying. And then Kyo is standing awkwardly, and we zoom in on him, and he's kind of looking away. Mom, Tohru says, I'm enjoying every day living with people in this house, so you can watch over me without worrying. Later, Kyo comes and finds Tohru asleep on the porch, and he kneels down to wake her up, saying that she'll catch a cold, and she rolls over and laughs without waking up. She sleeps like a kid, he says, and he sits down, grumpily. Hey, he says, and he leans down. Upstairs, the wind blows. The wind has blown some papers out of Tohru's room, and Yuki goes to pick them up, and then he looks into her room and he sees the hat on the floor. Hat's on his back, guys. Yuki reacts with shock, and then we see little Tohru running up to her mom wearing the hat, and the hat falls off her head as we transition back to the present, and we see Yuki still in the background, shocked. The papers blow, and then we transition back to downstairs. Kyo is still leaning over Tohru, and he gets close to her ear and whispers, I'm sorry. And then we cut to credits, which is the new ending theme. It was like a hard cut. He says, I'm sorry, and then it's like straight into the new credits.
It says it really quiet, too. I can barely hear it.
Yeah, it's very quiet. It's like almost everything that he said. He either screamed or whispered in this episode. Yay. So,
Yay.
The first note that I wrote is, holy shit. I have so many things to talk to you about. So I just want to get into it. Listen.
Okay. By all means.
Okay, good. I wasn't asking for permission. I mean... So,
well, I gave it anyway.
All right, good. I'm glad. So first of all, can we talk about how chilling all the scenes with Momiji's mother are?
And I remember when we discussed the chapters, we were like, it seems like there's some like implications of self-harm or suicide attempts.
Oh, yeah.
They're not implications anymore.
No. When she looks up and sees the scissor, I was like, no. And then when she stabbed herself, I was like, oh, like, no. It's just awful.
And it kind of seemed like she was like stabbing herself in the womb.
She definitely stabbed herself like in the gut.
Yeah.
I watched it really slowly, and the animation actually stops before she stabs herself, so it's hard to tell. But yeah, it could have been. And then I was like, and then they cut to the scene at the hospital, and I was like, I wonder if that's like an operating room light, which it was. I translated it, so I was like, oh, like she did something really bad. Like, I don't know, like why would you need to be in a operating room? Anyway, it seemed really, really bad. Even worse than in the manga.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, that was heavy. Oh yeah, my note says the stabbing scene is added. Yes.
Yeah. Subtext has become text.
Yes. The subtext is definitely text. Although she looked the same. The whole scene leading up to it was exactly the same.
Yeah.
But in the manga, it's just like she's just laying on the floor bandaged. Like there are no scissors. There's no stabbing scene. So
Yeah.
that was interesting and intense. Yeah, I think it just added to her desperation, right? And then the scene where she talks to Otori and Momiji sees, and and she's like, oh, I wish I'd never given birth to that thing, or whatever she says so harshly. I watched both the dub and the sub, but in the sub, the way the voice actress acted it was like so chilling. Like she like says half of the line and then like takes this really shaky like deep breath, and then also like a lot of the sound, and then says the rest of the line. Also, the sound in a lot of this part is really interesting because there's like nothing in like that whole scene, and then I think most of the when Momiji's mother shows up in the office and starts talking to him, there's like no background music, which I think makes it even more eerie, actually.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of really, really nice background music in this episode, but when there's nothing, it stands out even more, I feel like. I listened to both like I said, I watched both the dub and the sub, and I thought like Momiji's German accent in the dub might make it like really corny or something, but it was just as good, I felt.
Yeah, there's a line in the dub that really got to me that wasn't in the sub, when he's talking about how like he like secretly wanted her to, not forget and try. He says to try and love me.
Yes. Yeah, he's in the, at least in the subtitles it says like I wanted her to try or something. But yeah, in the dub he said I wanted her to try and love me, but she couldn't, or whatever. Yeah. Some of the lines in the dub I think were more, I mean, I think sometimes they just make things a little more explicit, I guess, but in that case it's like, oh, it really gets you in the feels.
But just, just hearing a kid essentially talk about his mother and saying, I wanted her to try and love me. I mean,
yeah. Yeah, it's sad.
And then call himself selfish for wanting that.
Yeah, for sure. I have not a complaint, but I thought it was interesting how in the Tokyo Pop version of the manga, so in the scene with the Tohru where she says, I wish I'd never given birth to that creature or something, I think like in the Tokyo Pop translation it said, I wish that creature had never come out of my body or something like that. So I actually like did some digging in the Japanese version and stuff, and like what she says in the script, and what she says is the same thing that was in the original manga, and I actually think that translation is better because she uses like a different verb that's not the same as give birth. It's like she uses a different verb. She says like came out of my body, literally, not that I gave birth to that thing, I guess.
Yeah. It sounds like she's like more distancing herself
exactly
from it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So actually I feel like that adds to that scene, and it wasn't translated that way in the sub or the dub, so it's just a note that I thought was interesting. I don't have complaints. Yeah. I can't complain about the series. It's amazing. But I don't know. I wish that it said that. It would have added more to it, I think. Oh, and also all that stuff with Momiji's mom that was so intense was in the first like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like I think by 10 minutes she's talking to Hattori. So I was like, whoa. Also during this episode. Yeah, it's quite an intense one.
So I remember last week when we were talking about whether this episode was going to do just Momiji or also include the graveyard visit. We're like, I don't know, because they're kind of thematically linked, but they're not really like directly linked. I liked how they kind of expanded like Tohru's like flashbacks of her mother's death to kind of connect them, and I thought that worked really well to kind of meld the two stories together.
Yes, that scene is the scenes where she's like running down the hall and seeing her mother in the room and then crying on her mother's body, that's like it's like a quarter of a side of a page in the manga. Like it's just a tiny sliver of a panel, and like I don't know, I probably just said like it looks like Tohru. I think when we talked about this in the manga I was like, it looks like Tohru and her bag falls and she sees something or whatever. I can't remember what it was. Like I probably talked about it more vaguely, but yeah, they expanded that scene, and I thought that was a really good choice. I think it ties, like you can clearly understand, I think, from the manga that she's talking about the memories that are painful for her, especially of her mother. I think it's made it more explicit, which was nicer.
Yeah, it worked well to tie it in, so it didn't feel like two different storylines jammed together into one episode. It felt like a more cohesive thing.
And those scenes are also like really touching as well. Like it's really it's just heartbreaking to see like a teenager seeing her mom dead in a hospital. Like, it's crazy. So
yeah,
both of them are so young. The scenes are really emotional and they're acted very well, and I think portrayed really nicely. And it's real sad. Really sad. We also, I guess as a side note, if you remember back to episode 7, which was, I'm sure you remember what happened in episode 7. No. That was the episode where Tohru visits where we learned about Hattori's backstory. Where Hattori wonders, there's a scene where Hattori wonders, like, is this my punishment? Like, having to erase Kana's memories, is this my punishment for having to erase other people's memories? And then we saw Yuki in his flashback, and then also Momiji. So now we know why Momiji, I think, was shown there. So that was foreshadowed. This relationship that they have, that he erased Momiji's mother's memories, was foreshadowed in that episode. So now we've delivered on that. Now we know why he was there. So, other things that happened. The whole second half of the episode, of course, focuses on going to visit. It's the anniversary of Toru's mother's death, and so they go to visit her grave. And there's a couple of notes that I have to say about visiting the grave. One is, like, it's interesting how Kyo and Yuki are nervous about standing out so much. I think when we talked about this before, we were like, oh, they're nervous about having a picnic in front of a grave because it's weird. But really, I think, like, they make some comments, or maybe it's just the way the subtitles are written, that are like, when they talk about Uo and Hana's outfits, they're like, those two stand out like a sore thumb. And they're worried about getting in trouble, and they're worried about, like, making a fuss. And I think it was kind of interesting how it reminded me of the 2 episodes ago, I guess, when Momiji and Haru started at school, and they were like, Momiji's like, I'm playing it cool at school, and then Kyo was like, how can you be playing it cool when you're wearing an outfit like that? Because he's like, I don't know, kind of making standing out a lot. I don't know how to describe it. I feel like there's something about not just Kyo and Yuki, but especially Kyo and Yuki, where they are really uncomfortable drawing attention to themselves. I feel like it's actually come up a lot, and these are just a couple of things. It's something I never really thought about before, and I feel like, maybe it's not because of the curse, or maybe because it's part of being cursed, where they don't want to draw attention to themselves. Just a passing thought.
Yeah.
I just felt like this time, because of a couple things that they said, it made me feel like that was more how they were feeling, rather than, like, maybe in addition to what we talked about before, I guess, some other things. So, whereas, like, Uo and Tohru and Hana, they're like the opposite. Like, they don't really care about not being the same as everybody else, or not standing out, or whatever, Like, they wanted to do what they thought Kyoko would want to do. They want to do what they feel like is right for the people they care about. I think that comes through in a little other things, but I just thought it was an interesting thing that was touched on by some of the other dialogue that was maybe represented in a slightly different way in the anime this time. At the grave, we also learned more about Hana's denpa, which I like to just point out.
More than Kyo wanted to know.
Yeah, definitely more than he asked for, that's for sure. But yeah, we learned that denpa are like thoughts that come directly to your head rather than your ears, she said. So I guess she can kind of understand them on, like, an intrinsic level. And that, the thoughts of the living, I guess, perhaps drown out the thoughts of the dead, or the waves of the denpa of the dead. So maybe they have waves as well. And of course, she can't see ghosts, we learned. So she can't do extra good at tests, and she doesn't see ghosts, and nobody should get those things confused. Do you have any other things to say about the grave?
So Kyo actually takes some food this time compared to the manga version of the scene.
Yes, he did.
Which is actually a really cute little background scene where they're, like, handing him the food and the chopsticks, and he just kind of takes them.
He pokes at it. I don't know if he ate it. Toru's like, what do you want?
He's like, what do you want? He's like, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, at least he takes it this time. Instead, he was just like, I'm not hungry or whatever in the manga, and he just, like, sat back to them or whatever. Just like when they were playing badminton, he just, like, sat on the ground or whatever. Yeah. Refuses to be invited to things. I thought that was an interesting choice too. Also a very minor but interesting choice.
He was rocking some off-brand Adidas logos, I noticed.
He's worn other things, like, in earlier episodes that are other, like, kind of off-brand Adidas looking things. But yeah, of course that's his choice to wear to a grave.
Yeah.
I mean, like, Uo and Hana, Hana's wearing a dress, Toru's wearing a dress, Yuki's wearing a sweater. And then Ua was wearing her like gang jacket, but that was something that belonged to the person who's deceased. And then Kyo was wearing a track jacket.
Yeah.
Come on.
He's like, this is the only black thing I own that isn't a t-shirt.
Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was funny. So, can we move on to the house?
Sure.
The scene at the house. So, of course, like I said, Hat's is back. So, if you forgot about the hat's back.
Yeah.
And I thought...
it's a slightly more expanded scene of it than we got in the manga.
Yeah, like in the manga, I think it was kind of the same thing. It's just static, so it's short. It feels shorter, and it doesn't feel as connected.
It just feels like there's a little more focus on it.
Yes. When we read the manga, it was like, and then we see Yuki looking at the hat, and then there's a scene of Tohru and her mother, or whatever. Like as if I can't remember what I actually said, but I don't think I proposed for them to be connected. But I think this makes them very clearly connected. The way that it's animated, like he clearly remembers that incident. It's not clear like why or whatever. He remembers the hat. He remembers, and he wasn't there when Tohru was talking about it. Like he was out of earshot, so it's not like he heard about it before, unless he can just like hear through the walls psychically.
Little rats living in the walls told him about it.
I wouldn't be surprised. So yeah, he clearly recognizes the hat. I think that which we can establish from the scene that we saw earlier. And he was kind of surprised or taken aback. Like he looked pretty shocked, I think, when he saw it. So maybe he didn't know that it was Tohru or whatever, or maybe he doesn't remember. I don't know, whatever. But I think it's clear that he recognizes it. And then of course we cut downstairs to where the most adorable and sad combined like ship teasing scene is happening between Kyo and Tohru. Where she falls asleep.
They made it look way more like a
kiss
in the anime than in the manga.
Yeah, they did. Because he kind of like leans over, but just like the way that it's animated, he gets really, really close to her.
Yeah.
And then he whispers super quietly. But there were some other like Kyo Tohru ship teasing in this episode. I feel like we've been getting a lot of Yuki Tohru ship teasing, and now we got to balance it out, right?
Yeah.
So, like, for example, Momiji is like, oh, so you keep coming to pick you up again? You know, Kyo could. He's so stubborn or whatever. I don't know if that's ship teasing, but it kind of felt like it the way that he teases Kyo, I guess. And then, of course, the scene where Tohru, like, grabs Kyo and drags him back to the picnic. I felt like, where she grabs his arm. And then the obvious one where Uo was like, Kyo seems to care about her more or something. Or, like, maybe one day he'll confess that he loves her or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is a
I wonder if that was like a translation difference, because like in the manga she said like if one of them will like confess their love to her.
Yeah.
And I think in the sub it also kind of went that, or the dub it kind of went in the like one of them direction as well. I can't remember exactly, but I feel like it was more vague than.
The subtitle clearly says Kyo, so either someone at the subtitle team ships Kyo and Tohru, or they picked one.
Yeah. Well, it said, like, she's talking about Kyo, and then she says he might confess.
Yeah. I don't remember if it said the two of them. I'd have to look at the, like, Japanese one to see what it said. But
yeah,
it might have said the two of them, or it might have said, like, I wonder if he will confess or something like that, something vague. But
yeah, I know the Tokyopop translation said one of them may confess.
Yeah. Perhaps. I mean, listen, we've got that, like, we've had that extra scene of Yuki and Toru's hands, like, close together in the in the credits for too long. Just have to balance it out.
Yeah. And keep the ship wars, or alternatively, the OT3 shippers happy.
Indeed, yes, indeed. Or we
should. Valid.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the opening and end themes? Because we can transition to that. Okay.
So, I want to talk about the round seahorse.
So rotund! Yes, speaking of the ending and the end theme, of course we can transition to talk about the end, the opening and ending, the new opening and ending. So of course it was confirmed that this season is going to be 25 episodes long, finally. And they added, it's a new set of opening and end themes. So yes, of course, in One Step Closer, which was the end theme, there's all the zodiac animals and the seahorse is there, and he's like super inflated. Yeah. So cute.
They're made like, I don't know if they actually are, but they're made to look like little like clay figures and stuff.
Yeah, they do look like that. I was trying to figure out how to describe it earlier. I think clay figures is a good way to describe it.
It's sort of like claymation without the nation.
Without the nation. Static clay.
Yeah.
And I think it's cute how it like transitions through the seasons. So it starts off in like spring, and then it kind of goes to summer, and then fall. Like when it gets to like Momiji and Kagura, it's fall, and then with the monkey, it's winter or whatever at the end. So yeah, it was very charming.
Yeah,
it was cute. And then the and nice and chill. And then the opening theme song is the song is called Chime by Ayotsuka, and like it was everybody's looking up at the cloudy sky and like throwing their umbrellas, and it was kind of like an upbeat, sort of like poppy opening. I feel like.
Yeah. It's cute. I like it better than the first opening.
Oh yeah, do you?
Yeah, I like more upbeat openings.
Okay.
You know, I was talking about how the opening of the first opening kind of felt like an ending.
Yeah, it
like,
does.
It was just kind of long, lingering shots without a ton of animation, which you usually see for endings.
It's true.
Yeah, they're both cute, but I like this one a little better.
They're both real chill. The first two were both really, really chill. This is the upbeat one that you were looking for all this time. I was like, oh, it's kind of fast. The song is really cute, though.
They always put like a good chunk of their animation budget into the opening, so I'm like, you might as well make it all upbeat.
It's true. There's a lot of umbrella
flashy.
throwing.
Yeah.
Yes. I was trying to find lyrics for this, but I haven't found lyrics for both of them yet. And they didn't include, because they didn't include subtitles yet. So
yeah,
maybe we'll wait for some subtitles to talk about it. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's everything I have to say that's not spoilery. It's exciting that we got, because the first 2001 anime, Furuba, only had the one opening and ending, which were both good, but it's nice that we get more. I feel like this makes me feel like we're getting the full anime treatment that we deserved. You know what I mean? Like, makes it feel like a serious anime when you get more than one opening and end theme.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, you know? So next anime break, we'll be talking about episode 15, and there'll be spoilery discussion after we play some music. Thank you all for listening. I told you a bunch of times recently to like leave reviews and follow us and send us notes and crap, so I won't bore you with that again. We'll get into the...
Keep doing it.
Please keep doing it, but you know where to go. Okay, that's it for this time. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Spoiler time.
Spoiler time.
The first thing that I have to say is that Mine's in the credits. Did you see the
Yeah,
opening
I did.
credits? I was like, oh, Mine! And then I was just excited.
Yeah, I like how she and Ayame have like super frilly umbrellas.
Of course they do. Of course all of their umbrellas are like, you know, based off of their characters, right?
Yeah.
Like Haru's is like clear with like black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was very charming. I think Momiji's had a little bunny on it or something, of course.
Yeah, they're cute.
Then we saw Ritsu not just as a monkey, also.
Yep.
Which was also cute. But then all the other...
We got a little bit more of Kisa and Hiro.
Yeah. I was going to say, I feel like I guess they were there, they were just asleep. But I think this time...
Yeah. Well, they were in the ending asleep.
Yeah.
And in the opening just as their animal forms.
Right.
So
Yeah.
We got a little more of a better look at them.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we got a better... another animation of Hiro and Kisa. Do you want to start with spoiler stuff?
I feel like we got a little bit more of Momo sharing curiosity in Momiji, because she was like watching him walk away. For a second, really obviously.
Yeah, for a second I thought that was added, and then I went back and looked, and it's just like also one panel that was extended. Like she clearly looks back at
it. A little more. Yeah, it's just another thing that got a little more focus.
Yeah, that was interesting. I liked it too. I hope they animate that part later where Momo helps Tohru like break into the main house, essentially.
Yeah.
That'll be exciting.
I hope someone takes it and like puts the Mission Impossible theme over
it. Challenge accepted. I mean, I thought the scene where Kyo is like not praying or whatever at the grave is incredibly conspicuous, and I felt that I had to talk about it in the non-spoilers because it was so conspicuous. But yeah, of course it alludes to his awkwardness. It's another tack on to all his awkwardness around Kyoko.
Another thing that got more emphasized because that's him like actually walking away
fully
from the grave.
away.
Yeah.
Far away.
Hana follows him.
Yeah. Well, Hana knows what's up.
Yeah.
She's like, that boy sure is guilty. Followed him. Oh, well, and of course, like, there's the hat. Yeah, I think they just, like, made some things that were really spoilery in the first, when we read this in the manga, like, less spoilery because they reveal more of it. Like, like, how clearly it's, like, I'm sure the first time we talked about the hat and Yuki, but it's very clearly that he remembers it. Right? Yeah,
it's just, I think they're just, like, since they know what's gonna be happening, they're able to emphasize the foreshadowing a little more. Then I think the first anime, they're like, I don't know what this is about, so we're just gonna cut it. So.
Forget the hat.
Yeah.
We don't need hats on. It's a main character.
Yeah. I wonder who's going to voice Satsan in the dub.
Like the guy that played the lemur in Madagascar. I don't know who that is. Hold on, wait. I was just like, who'd be funny to say?
I was going to say, like, the guy who voices all the video game protagonists, but I can't think of his name right now. Nolan North. That's the joke I was going to make.
Oh. Oh, apparently it's Sacha Baron Cohen. Well, I should have known that. So him. He can play that.
Now I just want to do a cut of the series where every time the hat is on screen it starts playing, I would like to move it, move it.
I thought you were going to be like, I'm bored at or something.
Yeah, no.
Oh, dear. I don't think I have any other spoilers. I guess, like, the only other spoiler, of course, is, like, it's also, there's really strong Kyo-Tohru ship teasing in this.
Mm-hmm.
I also felt like I could not comment about it. Like, it was comment being, I swear she was like, one day Kyo tell her that he loves her or something like that, but, or whatever. It's tied into the same comment about him. And he doesn't say, one day one of them will tell her.
Yeah.
So.
The subtitle, it said, she's, like, made the comment about Kyo and then said one day he might confess or whatever. But I remember in the manga, it was deliberately said, like, one of them may end up confessing his feelings or something.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm gonna watch that part again. Let me see what it says.
Yeah. But in the dub, I think it was also, they made it vague again.
I think so. Listen, deliberate ship teasing. That's all I'm trying to say. Or, like, ship spoiling. In this case, it's not a tease. Okay, well, I guess that's it for spoilers then. Just the voice of the hat will be played by Sacha Baron Cohen. Okay.
It's the biggest spoiler of all.
Yeah. There'll be rumors going around, like, when, which one of them was it that said that there was going to be 63 episodes of the anime? Was it Eric Vale, or was it one of the other actors?
He was there.
He was like, yeah, totally. And then, like, 3 weeks later, he was like, just kidding. I take it back. I had no idea what I was talking about. So soon I'll be all over Twitter being like, they said Sacha Baron Cohen is going to play the voice of the hat. All right. That's enough talk about this. Thank you all for listening. We will see you next time for episode, 15.
The next one.
Math. We'll see you next time for a discussion about the manga, actually. And then another discussion about the anime.
Yeah.
All right. Seriously, thank you all for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Back at Shigure's house, Tohru has made herself some tea and is enjoying it on the porch. What?
Is enjoying the porch.
I know. I was like, that sounds weird, but she kind of is.
Yeah.
I told you I mean everything I say. What the hell? Back at Shigure's house.